Hey Jackie, how you doing? I'm gonna get right into it. I took a look at the video a couple times and narrowed it down to a few things. Kind of some of the stuff we actually covered before. Uh, just to get to the nitty gritty, we'll get to that in a bit. But just to summarize, first, it's all stuff that's related to form. Basically, everything I'm gonna show you, it's all related to form. Uh, Pretty much, that's the key, the core of it, all form. Uh, Everything that could be corrected, I believe. Some things people do naturally, some people things people don't do naturally, but I believe that everything in here is correctable. So I'll just go over it real quickly, and then I'll show you in the video. I think a couple of things that has to do with your problems are you got a real wide stance. A lot of times your right foot is way behind you. You get a real wide stance. And I think it makes you feel strong. It makes you feel like if you could react quicker. But in reality, it's locking you up. It causes you to bring your right foot forward, bring your face forward when you throw a right hand. It squares you up a lot. So your stance is one big thing. Another thing is every time you jab, you bring your face kind of forward. And you're walking into punches because your stance is wide, and then when you're jabbing, you're kind of stepping into it, so you're really getting locked in. So that's why you have the delay with your right hand, because your foot's all the way behind you, and your hips are kind of spread apart. So it's very hard to trigger the right hand really quickly, and that's why you got that delay. That's probably why you feel kind of slow with the right hand. As far as defensively, I think a lot of your problems are coming from your stance. We need to work on your jab. And when it boils down to your face is coming forward and you're squaring up a lot. You're actually bringing your head lower. You're locking your head in the middle. And a lot of times you're just coming forward, putting yourself in bad position. So we'll get into it and I'll explain it. Right off the bat, I'm going to show you within the first 20 seconds what I'm talking about as far as your stance and coming forward. Because you're doing a lot of weight transferring when you jab. You're stepping off. You got this wide stance. You're pushing. And you're actually lifting your right foot off the floor. And that delay when you jab and you lift, by the time you get back, it's creating a really big delay, and you can't really throw a right hand off of that. So I'll show you. You see the stance, how wide it is right there? And I'll show you in slow motion. So you're doing that weight transfer, so that all that weight is really, you're getting all the way out there. And it takes you a while to get that right foot back on the floor. You're squaring up a little bit right there. And you see that stance? That's the problem right there. Now, this girl is a lot shorter than you. And look at her stance. Even though she's got her face forward a little bit. Like you see her face forward. And her face is above her left foot. But she's got a smaller stance. Which is going to allow her to move in and out quickly. So like a lot of times when you're attacking, she'll take smaller steps. And with your big stance, you're kind of locking in. And I think it makes you feel steady. But it really limits you as far as movement. So a lot of times you'll go in. And then when someone's attacking, you'll come back. And since you're so locked in, you can't skip out. You'll tend to bring your left foot up. And you'll get stuck here. And then you're going to get hit. And this is just a preview of what the problem was. See that how you're leaning and shifting your weight. And look how low you are. You're actually shorter than her when you're fighting. See how far the stance is right here? And when the speed picks up in the fight, you're getting locked in there. This is also very tiring, I think, to be flexing like that. And that's like a little preview here, like when you jabbed and you got locked in, all you could do is just lean back and you're getting stuck. And we'll go through it a little bit further. And I'll explain why I slowed this up in slow motion, why I thought it was important to take a look at. Let's go back a little bit. one of the problems as I'm telling you about is you're stepping in and then you're reaching in, you're bringing your face with you. So you're kind of narrowing late. So when you're jabbing, you're going like this. You're stepping in, you're going like this, and your face is coming forward, and then you're releasing the jab. And you can see this girl's just, that's why she out jabs you sometimes, even though she's shorter. And then you're leading with the face. So she's able to out jab you. So for her, watch how she has her stance. And that's what I'm talking about. See her stance, she's ready to jab from there, and you're squared up to got your shoulder square. And it's very hard. What you're doing is you're coming in like this, and you're walking into the jab basically. You're walking into her jab, walking into her punch. And when you lean back, that's what I'm saying. With that wide stance, you're locked. So you're, instead of having your stance a little bit closer and you're able to skip out and skip in and skip out and skip in any direction you want, you're getting a real wide stance, and all you're doing is able to lean back, but you only can lean back so far, and then you're trapped. And she's kind of sensing your distance, and that's why she's able to land some of these punches, because she's just coming in. She knows your distance. And see how you have a hard time getting out? And then once again, you're leading into the face a little bit. We'll show the sequence again, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And as a taller fighter, you should be controlling the distance and not having her out jab you. How you come in with the face, and then you're walking into the counter jab. I showed you this sequence because I want you to see how much you're leaning forward. And how far your right foot is back. I think that's probably one of your biggest problems, is that your right foot is so far behind you. I mean, you have such a big, wide stance, such a long stance, that it's giving you a big problem. See, that right foot is way back here. If you drew a line straight up, right here, where that arrow's going, that's really, your head should be further this way, with your base underneath. That would, imagine how tall you would get if your head was back here. Your head would be up here, but instead you got this wide stance, and your head's closer to your opponent, and you're locking yourself in. So when you jab, that's the problem. You got this lean. And it's very hard to, because when you're at a wide stance, you lock your hips. If you ever try it and you spread your feet apart and you try to turn your hips get locked. So whenever you throw a right hand, you're going to come forward and bring your face forward, and you're not going to reach your target. You see it? And that's what's going to bring your problem. You square up, and you're doing that little, it's like a 1-2. And a lot of my tall fighters that I'm working with, they run into the same problem, because they want to have a good stance, and it comes out, I think, a lot from stationary pad work. They want to like dig in and get a good grip, and they tend to have their head over the middle of their legs here, instead of being more on your back foot a little bit, so you're taller. So the taller fighters get squared like this and centered, and when they throw, they do what I call a 1-2, not a jab right, but a 1-2. They literally go 1, bring their face forward, 2, 1, 2, and their head's always in the center. If you're looking like this, they're going 1, 2, and you're doing the same thing, and you'll see later on how that leads to getting hit. And you'll see this will be shown in slow motion. So how wide the stance is, you can't reach the right hand. You square up. Now that's your problem. Now she's got the distance. She just pushes the jab out. Even though she's a lot shorter than you, you're closing the distance with your face, walking into her jab. And that all started from this really bad long 1-2. 1-2, square. Look how far back that foot is. If you drew a line straight up here, that's a good 3-4 feet, which causes you to bring it forward and you're square. And that's what when I say the 1-2, you're doing a 2-step. You're like 1 step, 2 step, 1 step, 2 step. And these fighters are timing it. So they're timing you when you go to the 1, they're probably stepping back and either hitting you with a jab or a right hand, whatever it may be. And that's why you might have a delay. Like that's why your 1-2 isn't really snappy, is because it's the footwork that's giving you a problem. So there's a little delay. Take a look when you land that jab, because you're throwing so much weight and your right's behind you. It takes a while to slide. See it slide? Then comes a right hand. So what you see is you're stepping, overextending because your right foot's back there. You have to bring it up, and that delay is bringing the delay in a 1-2. A 1-2 is supposed to be 1-2. You jab right, but if your foot's behind you, you're gonna have to take time to, when that jab lands, to bring that right foot up, and that's where your problem is. It's the bottom half of your body, your footwork. That's when she steps back, and you do that 1. And she's catching you as you're stepping in on the 1. And you're kind of fighting in a 1-2 rhythm, like 1 step, 2 step, 1 step, 2 step, and you're real just 1 step, 2 step. You see how you're getting out jabbed here? So many times she out jabbed you as the shorter fighter, because you're coming in and you're leading with your face a little bit because of that back foot. And as a taller fighter, you want to be further back. So there's one, she's out jabbing you. And you go back to that 1-2 rhythm. And she's stepping back to get her distance, and she knows you're going to come in with that 1-2 again. Look, it goes to square. As you're starting to 1, she's got her foot set. She knows the distance when to time you to come in. And you can see how wide your stance is. And you see how when your stance is really wide right here at the end, how you get locked up and can't even punch, and you end up losing your balance back. Watch. Right there. No, watch. You get really wide. And you're trying to punch from a wide stance. And you get to see your hips don't rotate. Your left hip and your right hip aren't going to rotate. If you get that wide, you're going to lock, and you're just going to do this. You're going to end up doing this instead of, actually being able to turn with the shorter stance. I'm gonna show it again because your foot's right back so far. Your right foot so far back when you throw the right hand, it forces you to square up. Watch. And then when you try to step back, you're getting locked in. You can't get all the way out. And watch her. She has smaller steps, so she's beating you to the angle all the time. And you see how a shorter fighter is out jabbing you? It's all in the footwork because you're locking in on a long stance, and she's doing short steps out, and she's gonna take a little angle change and get that right foot planted. Watch, because that's where the jab starts. Now she's lined you up right there. Your right foot's back here behind you, and by the time you adjust, she's starting to jab. See it? And she's getting those extra few inches just by controlling the distance a lot better and a little bit better footwork. That's why she's able to get a snappier jab. We think that because your stance is so wide, it takes you a few steps to readjust just to get into a fighting stance or get to where you feel comfortable. And that's where you're kind of getting in trouble because you're getting caught trying to readjust your feet from that wide stance and your face comes forward closer to your opponent. When you're taller, you want your face further away from your opponent. And when you back up, you're getting locked. As a taller fighter, you don't have to have that big of a stance. You want to have a shorter stance for, relative to your height, so that you're going to be taller up. She's going to have to reach you. Your head's going to be higher up. So that's okay right there when you're tall, but you're coming down to her level and you're walking in with your face. I mean, those are 4 or 5 punches there's no need to take because you've lowered your level. So I think right here, if you would have readjusted, because you had her backed up on the ropes and get to a more orthodox stance, get back to narrow, you have her on the ropes, you could have controlled her, but you kind of walked in with the face square. And even though you're backing her up, that's what the judges see, the head snapping back. You say you're having a little bit problem throwing that, even when you land a jab, there's like a really long delay before the right hand comes. It's just because the right foot's too far back. You're controlling your distance there and you're landing your punches. That's nice. I think if your right foot's up a little bit more, you have more snap on it without falling forward. I think, as you can see from the video, when you have that right foot back, every time you attack, it's like you're falling forward. And even when you land, it's kind of like you choke your distance or you're falling forward and you lose your distance. And that's one of the things, even when you're attacking, I think that's why you develop that two-step where you bring your right foot, you kind of walk, because like there, because you've learned to adjust to your imperfections, your right foot, your bad footwork. So I think that's kind of why you feel more comfortable walking in. But a lot of times you're walking in and it looks pretty good, but then all of a sudden you're square, and they're landing more telling blows where your head snapping back. So a lot of times you walk these girls back and it looks okay, but then other times you're walking into punches because you're square. I mean, you're doing good work here. You're working, you're landing. I'm not saying you're not landing your own. And this is a lot of times I thought when you got your distance and you're comfortable and you're letting the hands go, you did a lot better. But right there, like when you're backing up from the square, the judges just see the head snapping back, and that's the problem. I didn't show too much replay in the second round, maybe 1 or 2, and just the 8 count, and that was it, because it kind of just reinforces what I've been talking about here. So you square up because our right foot's back. And what happens is, I think, I just wanted to show this replay because it kind of shows how you do something well and you back her up with the jab, but because our right foot's so far back, it puts you in a bad spot. See how far back that right foot is? You're never going to be able to throw a right hand without falling almost face forward. And even though you're doing a good job backing her up with long jabs, you stiff-armed her, it's nice. When it's so far back, the only natural thing is for your face to come forward, and if you miss, look where you're at. You end up being square, And look at her. She's got her right foot on the base. She's cutting you in the middle. She's a little bit narrow, and she's gonna have a little bit control position, a better position to control you even when you come in on her as a smaller fighter, because smaller fighters will be able to turn around quicker, get off punches on the inside, and even though that's not any big punch, the judges think it is. So as a tall fighter, you don't want to be falling in the short fighters, losing your balance. And this kind of a persona, shows exactly what your problem is. So you square up right there, dragging the right foot up, and it gets you in a square position. And this is where it all started with that right foot being too far back. Because it starts to get you squared up. And I'm going to stop it right there because that kind of just shows a few things I wanted to focus on. I think if you get your bottom half of your body corrected, shorten up that stance, concentrate on staying narrow. I think when you bring that right foot up, it'll get rid of that big long delay you're having after your jab. It'll stop you from falling forward on your right hand. It'll stop you from lunging in on your opponent and losing your distance. It'll force you to be a little bit taller to take advantage of your height and help you to use your jab better. We got a whole bunch of drills. We've run into these problems with other fighters, and it's something that's easily not easily, but it's correctable. But it's with a lot of drills. I won't go into the drills right now, but there's a lot of drills we could do, and that once you get that stance, your legs shortened up and have a better stance, your jab will be better. Your right hand will be better. You'll be able to, when you throw a jab and then slide over and get your head over to the right. Jack, you're not going to have, I think I told this before, some fighters have natural head movement. Some fighters got super quick reflexes. And some fighters don't have that. I have a lot of fighters that don't have that. So with those fighters, we have to rely on form. Make sure, especially if they're taller, you got to take care of take advantage of all of your strengths. Being tall, having long arms, having good strength for a taller, skinnier person, snapping that jab out, always maintaining your distance. Right now, you're having a few problems because you're bringing your face forward and you're fighting like a shorter fighter. You don't have those quick reflexes, so you're not moving. A lot of times when you're punching, your head's in the center and you're doing this, and you're throwing across your body and your head's still here. So that's why you see at the end the girl was able to almost like a check hook. And that's how people get check hooked, because their head's stuck in the center. But if you jabbed and you had your right foot under you and you're able to roll your right hand, slide your head over, they're not going to check hook you. That's natural defense. I think I talked to you about that with Marika. But these are all things that over the course of weeks with specific drills and someone paying attention to you and focusing, that would really you could correct it and really improve your fight game. I really believe it. I just think you got these little 2 or 3 core problems. But if you ever need any help or you want to talk about it further, I've been talking to Carlos about it. We're willing to help you if you want to come up with Bill. But it's not going to be one of the, I don't think we'll be able to handle it in just a couple hours once a month or something like that. It'd have to be something that like a weekend, maybe a Friday and a Saturday, and we do 2 or 3 training sessions or something like that. Nothing about condition, but just talking about the form, working, perfecting some drills, starting with the footwork and just slowly working our way up over a course of a period of time. I know it's hard to get over here to Chicago, but I seen that you're paying for this traveling to these tournaments, and I know that's expensive. I think it might be better, money better spent correcting these problems. That's why I have this video, because the video, when I show people video, it doesn't lie. It clearly shows what your problems are and how it could be corrected. I saw this girl fight in the championship, and both of those girls weren't that good. The other one was just a better shape and threw a whole bunch of punches. Both of these girls could be easily beaten with jabs and good footwork and keeping them on the outside, because they were both just put their head down and wing and they run into punches. So I think I got the championship fight with these two girls on video. But give me a call, and maybe we could Zoom with Carlos and Bill and all of us and sit down and talk about it. See if you want any help. We'd definitely love to help you out, because we've always liked your work ethic and your dedication. And both me and Carlos really believe that you could make a lot of improvements. We got Margarita, and we could probably get D over here for when the time comes to get sparring. You girls are all the same weight. Carlos is going to move Margarita up pretty quickly. And, we think all of you's working together could help each other out, because, being around the same weight, you guys are identical pretty much in weight. So I think it'd be a good resource to have. But we first have to start working on the basics. But give me a call, or we'll coordinate something, like I said, with all of us, and maybe we'll talk about it.